Welcome to Listening Screen, where I give you the movie review to listen to. Spoiler free, of course. I love Studio Ghibli's Ocean Waves. It hasn't ever been popular among critics or audiences, but I think it is misunderstood. The film follows a love triangle that develops between two good friends and a new girl that transfers to their high school from Tokyo. No, this isn't one of Ghibli's best films, but it has some special qualities. The story behind the making of the film is worth appreciating. This was the first Ghibli film to not be directed by Hayao Miyazaki or Isao Takahata. The film is often forgotten as it was originally released on TV in Japan in 1993 and didn't receive an international release for many years, releasing in the UK in 2010 and in the US in 2017. It is now available on Blu-ray, which I own. Unlike most Ghibli films, Ocean Waves hasn't been treated to an English dub. Disney does a great job with the dubs, often hiring A-list Hollywood actors with a talent for voice acting. It is not a necessity, but it would be nice to get an English dub of this film, if not for anything other than awarding it more widespread exposure. Studio Ghibli treated Ocean Waves as an experiment, rather than a genuine entry into their canon. They wanted to give new young animators an opportunity to show their colours on a tight schedule with a short runtime and a limited budget. They ultimately came up with something valuable. The art and animation is wonderful, with many of its frames edited and reposted often on social media. They are reposted so often, in fact, that I'm sure most don't even realise where the pictures originate. This love for the aesthetic, even out of context, proves the great artistry on display. Many critics at the time cited the simplicity of the animation as an issue, but I disagree. Everything about the film is simplistic. It is a charming slice-of-life story about a small but relatable conflict. Therefore, the simplistic look works. The film is presented in a youthfully flawed manner, which makes sense given its origin. The characters themselves are young and flawed, so I think the rough approach just enhances the whole experience and makes it feel personal. The film is nostalgic. It shrinks Ghibli's usual grand scale into a relatable romance, whilst still retaining the important, wondrous feeling Ghibli is known for. The way the characters speak and behave is authentic to the high school experience, and the material resonated with me because of that. The characters reflect with fondness and melancholy on a time in their lives when their emotions were chaotic and their worlds small. They struggled to interact with one another, which was a big deal to them, the only thing that mattered at the time, in fact. Their whole world concerned the here and now. They didn't have anything to look back on. Their emotions were once like ocean waves, but now they can hear the sea. The music is gorgeous. I often listen to the soundtrack while driving. I rarely do this with other films. It reflects all of the melodrama. It sounds like the ocean. It is calming. It is memorable and touching. It fits the film well and has a lot to say. The film beautifully depicts the real-life city of Kotsi in Japan, and the immersive cinematography makes me want to visit locations from the film. As I was watching the film, I found myself interpreting the relationship between the two male characters to be a gay love story. It felt like I was watching a movie about the main character discovering and coming to terms with his sexuality. I know that many viewers of the film feel the same way, and have expressed this online. I showed the film to a friend and she picked up on the same subtext, unprompted. I can't argue that the film backtracks on this in its third act, when it is simply my interpretation, but I feel that there was a lot of untapped potential to take the film in that direction. Maybe it was the intention of the filmmakers to sneak this subtext in there, or maybe it wasn't. If it was intentional, I can understand keeping it veiled, as this was early 90s Japan. I must admit that I'm disappointed that they didn't go in a queer direction for this film. It feels like they should have. It would have been a great statement to make at the time. Considering the film received mixed reviews at the time, it probably wouldn't have been a safe direction ultimately, but it would have aged very well. Overall, I think this film has some beautiful ideas put into it. It is hardly inconsequential to me. It perfectly contextualizes growing older and what it means to look back on hard times with a twinkle in your eye, feeling good about who you are today and how those experiences led you here. I think the film's messaging felt authentic to the ones creating it. Even though you can sense their inexperience, you can also sense truth and passion. It was a gracious act of the Ghibli heavy hitters to award these filmmakers such an opportunity, and despite taking the failure to heart, and ultimately never taking the risk again, it speaks to the spirit of Ghibli and its higher-ups. Ghibli has always been dedicated to the art form first and foremost, rather than the desire to make money without challenging viewers. The characters in Ocean Waves feel more real than many of the characters I see in live-action films. I feel a genuine connection to the characters. The same goes for the sisters in My Neighbor Totoro. It helps that they are voiced by sisters Dakota and Elle Fanning in the English dub. My point is that Ghibli has a way of reaching your heart, and it is because of how they take their time to establish their worlds and their characters. They don't release a film every year or multiple films a year the way that Disney does. We are lucky to get 2 a decade at this point. These films respect the intelligence of children more than probably any animated films that come out of America. But they also capture the imaginations of children and, by extension, adults. While Ocean Waves is not as polished or well-crafted as some of their more popular films, I do think that it is extremely underrated. You may disagree, but that's how I feel.